All right, as Woodison would say in Dazed and Confused, we are Plate and Ponder Empty Nesting with Jen and Chris Fenton. We are live from a Sunday afternoon during McGill spring break, and I got a special guest on today by the name of Hudson Waldorf, one of the true Waldorfs. And we are going to talk to this guy because not only is he my son's roommate, but he's also somebody that's quite impressive, I got to say, in a million different ways. Not only that, he is taking 45 minutes of his valuable spring break time out to talk to us on Plate and Ponder. There's no Jen Fenton today. She's off at a friend's birthday party, but she will be back. We are in 46 countries around the world. I want you to please engage, listen, review, and enjoy, and follow us wherever you find your podcast. We are going to go straight audio today because I just can't get that video to figure it out. So anyway, without further ado, let me welcome Hudson Waldorf from McGill University and McGill University's lacrosse team. Hudson Waldorf, hello.
Mr. Fenton, how are we? I'm excited to be here.
Speak a little closer to the mic. We got to hear
Sorry
that.
about that.
I have a face for radio, as people know, but you have a face that actually looks beautiful for movie stardom and whatever else you partake in. So we got to hear that voice, though, because we got a lot to talk about today. So what do you think about being here in Manhattan Beach, by the way?
Yeah, my apologies to the viewers. Sorry, I hope the mic's working now. But Manhattan Beach is it's not really something I've experienced before. It's a really cool way of living, I gotta say.
Would you give it a applause?
I would give it a 10 out of 10. I don't think it needs to change too much to be amazing. I think it's, this is kind of the place that people think about when they think about making it,
Well, fill me in a little bit. I mean, one of the things that I found really unbelievable about you is that when Dylan did decide to go to McGill and was going to get roomed with a lacrosse player on the team, your name popped up, and of course he's like, oh, I wonder what I know about this guy. Oh, he's from Darien, Connecticut. And we actually knew some people that happened to live in Darien, Connecticut, like 5 years ago. So we were just like, hey, does anybody know this guy, Hudson Waldorf? And of course, they're like, oh, let us make a phone call and see. And of course, within minutes, we got a report back that pretty much everybody in Darien, Connecticut knows you. Why is that?
I would say it's not just a Darien thing. It's a Fairfield County thing. So I grew up in Greenwich, honestly, for longer than I'll probably ever live in Darien. I grew up, my family grew up in the city, or my mom lived in the city for 30-something years, and I grew up in the city, but I lived in Greenwich, and I went to Brunswick. So I had played all kinds of travel sports, and I happen to just know a lot of people in Rye and Greenwich and Westport, New Canaan. And then when I came to Darien, it kind of all clicked because Darien's kind of in the middle of all that, and it's got its hands in everything else. And so, just playing lacrosse there especially, I think really connects you with the community, even when you come in for the high school like I did, because I did K through 8 at Brunswick. And then coming into the high school at Darien could be a little bit daunting, but when you have like one thing that really connects you to such a tight-knit community like that, it doesn't take very long to become pretty connected. And, just the nature of the town, right? Manhattan Beach is what, 30,000 people? About?
Yeah, well, actually, it's a pretty good guess. It's roughly about 35,000.
Yes, that's like double the size of Darien. So, it all kind of compounds on each other.
What's pretty cool, though, is like one thing, I mean, to make a single phone call for somebody that we randomly knew that was from Darien, and to find out just from one phone call that everybody knew who you were there. And what was great is that not only did they know who you were, but they also didn't report back that you were like a psycho killer or something. They actually said, this kid's really cool. I think Dylan's going to be really lucky to have him. But it seems like you tell me that you grew up in the city and then you move out into, the burbs of Connecticut. It must be like a little bit of that mix of like city sophistication and then also that suburban lifestyle that gave you a little bit of that like networking ability, right? That moving around, you got to learn how to make friends pretty quick, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like when you're playing sports in a place like Fairfield County that's really, really competitive, and everybody's trying to get an edge, it makes sports a real bonding experience for community, parents, kids, especially, you know, the club lacrosse circuit. You end up knowing so many people from around you because in a sea of random kids from Maryland, Delaware, New York, whatever, you run into a couple kids that you know from your area, and you start to become friends with them. And if you hang out with them outside of school or whatever, when you're back home at least once, then you meet all their friends. And as long as you know you're being a nice guy or whatever, people tend to remember you fondly. You know, it's a cool thing running into people. And so I feel like with the fact that you can drive everywhere in Fairfield pretty easily, it kind of breeds like a really, really well-connected, like larger area, more than just a town, you know? Like with LA, I feel like there's so many like larger areas that communities like Manhattan Beach tend to get really, really tight-knit and connected because it's like everywhere around you are towns this size.
Well, I mean, over my career, like I've had to be involved with hiring or hiring people that are hiring, or even as a professor at USC, I'm always trying to look at, you know, kids that, you know, you're a freshman at McGill, my kids are upperclassmen, but it's always interesting to me to sort of think about, okay, who are the ones I think are going to survive in today's day and age, you know, or tomorrow's day and age, which is even more foggy because there's a lot of challenges. It's a global environment. There's AI that's coming online, you know, and I like to think that it's kids that really understand networking, really understand how to make friends, how to get people to trust them, how to create reputations that people think are very stellar and are willing to spread the word. Oh yeah, he's somebody your kid should hang out with. But then on top of it, I love the fact that you play lacrosse, and I've seen you on that team really help rally like some of those guys. You know, I feel like that's an interesting mix of qualities that you got. And I'm not glazing, by the way. I'm just saying, like, I've gotten to know you over the last year, and it's sort of you know, I'm proud of the kid that my roommate rooms with, or my son rooms with, which is a good thing.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. And the McGill landscape is just so different than the U.S. And I think me and Dylan rooming together, playing lacrosse together, and also being in the same fraternity, all of that kind of combines into one big outlook that we've kind of shared, you know? We both came to Canada knowing it would be a different experience. There's not the same kind of hand-holding that you have at U.S. colleges. You're in residence for 1 year.
When you walk into a place like up there in Montreal, does it sound like this?
Yeah,
like
when you're ordering food.
Yeah, the record scratch. The music stops. Like, Americans are in here.
Yeah, no. It's a lot easier to say that you're a student and not, I'm from America, for sure. They don't love Americans too much there, but they don't really love Canadians from outside of Quebec also. You know, in a city like that, it's such a unique city, and I feel like, you know, they are kind of modern day pirates. If you look at the ancestry of what started Quebec, of the people who came from France to start it, it's a little bit like Australia in the sense of who started the city, and that culture has stayed literally it's in our everyday life now, hundreds of years later. You know, with them trying to secede, with the Quebec Bloc Party trying to secede, and, you know, all the language laws. It's an interesting place to go to college. It matures you, definitely.
Well, I think, I mean, if anything, it shows, you know, Dylan and you, and actually, why don't you give a quick shout out to who you're here with on spring break? Who's part of your crew right now?
Yeah. We'll give a shout out over here in the kitchen to Spencer Mason from Toronto, Ontario.
By the way, Spencer Mason is studying on spring break. I mean, that's, you know, McGill is not known for easy academics, and I've noticed you guys know how to work hard and play hard.
Definitely. Speaking of work hard and play hard, shout out to Jake Brady with a 3.95 GPA in the first semester in the Faculty of Science.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think he was all Canadian as a lacrosse player, too.
All Canadian, first team, all rookie as well. True Toronto Canadian, I got to say. We got to get him on here. We got to get his beautiful Toronto accent out here for the California listeners to listen to. Yep. And then Johan Pincinot, a French-Canadian guy on the team from the DMV, a pretty interesting, pretty cool area.
So he's from Maryland, but he's also Canadian. He's Quebec Canadian, or is he really? Okay.
Quebec Canadian. His grandparents live in Montreal. He speaks perfect Quebec French as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, so does Dylan, right?
Dylan was born like that. That's the official language of Manhattan Beach, is it not?
Yeah, I think so. Dylan has a hard time speaking English sometimes, so I don't know. All right, so that's Johan. Johan is, and by the way, he's a pretty badass surfer, I got to say, too. He was taking off on a couple big waves today, so that was fun. And then, so you have Spencer, who's Canadian. You have Jake Brady, who's Canadian. You have Johan, who's Canadian but living in Maryland. You actually have some Canuck in you too, right?
That's correct. My dad grew up in West Island in Montreal and then worked in Toronto, but he's been in the U.S. for almost all this century. So I don't know if he's too Canadian anymore. He definitely loves Connor McDavid, but yeah, I traced some Canadian roots back to him. I gotta give him credit for wanting me to go to McGill. Honestly, I didn't really know much about it, but my aunt went to McGill and his cousin went to McGill, so it had always been a thing in the family, but I had no idea. So.
Yeah, well, he is definitely a big fan of it. I hung out with him a bunch those first few weekends, and boy, he explores all the museums and all that kind of stuff. I think he's overjoyed that you're at that school. And then round out, who's the last two? So you got my son Dylan, and then who's the final?
Then we've got Brennan Visoki from New Jersey, from Bergen County, New Jersey. Not too far from me, actually. Not too far from where the legend coach Rick Beardsley used to coach. That's a great lacrosse area. Another engineering guy too, pretty another smart fellow on the team. That's we love to see that as well.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy that you got two engineers, and then Jake is science, but what's he studying?
He's either going to do physics, chemistry, or biology, because
he wants to go to med
stuff. He wants to go to med school. Yeah, just taking easy classes, basically.
And then Brennan plays what position on the lacrosse team?
Brennan's the best goalie in all of Canada. I got to give him the credit.
Was he? He was all Canadian, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
And pretty unbelievable as a freshman. I mean, some of the saves that he made were unbelievable. And I think his first love was hockey, ice hockey growing up. So
yeah.
It's pretty impressive that you guys have a great team. You guys made the Final Four this year. I think you dodged a bullet by not making the finals, even though that was heartbreaking because it was played in a blizzard with 6 inches of snow on the ground. And I don't think the parents were super excited about sitting through that. But what's the outlook for next year? You think you guys have a shot at the cup?
We always have a shot at the cup. I gotta say, we don't really ever rebuild. I gotta say, we usually reload. With the talent that Kevin brings in and the culture that a lot of the guys, especially the younger guys, have bought into, I think we have a really bright future ahead. We've got two returning guys who would have graduated. Rowan Burrell, who is also known as God.
Rowan is quite a player, I got to say. He's very nifty on his moves, I got to say. It's pretty awesome watching him.
Very talented player. John Miraglia is coming back, and we've got a young defense that I'm really, really excited for.
And some pretty good recruits coming in, too.
Yeah, we've got a couple guys that I know, actually, from the East Coast. Pole from Westminster, a guy from Avon Old Farms, from 91 Long Island, actually. So the program, it definitely is continuing its upward trajectory, for sure.
Well, so what we like to do on Plate and Ponder is, we do a little banter at the beginning, but then we like to sort of dive into a couple serious subjects. So if it's cool with you, I'd like to, now that I've gotten to know you over the last year, and especially since you're living in the house this week, obviously networking. I mean, I always believe that if you really work hard as a networker, you can be no more than 1 degree of separation away from anybody on earth. I think you might even be like half a degree of separation, because it seems like everybody we run into is like, oh, I've heard of you from this person or this person, somebody at Tulane, somebody at Georgia, somebody at wherever, and including some random pictures with you in Connecticut with one of Kaylee's good friends.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing is wild. So, networking, which by the way, I don't know, what do you want to get into someday? What's the, are you focused on, what's the summer internship going to be for you? Are you got any sort of job prospects lined up or anything like that?
Yeah, I've been working on this student-run venture capital firm that is really, really interesting to me called Front Row Ventures. It's a really interesting model. I don't know if venture capital is per se the end goal if I'm in 30, 40 years going to be wanting to work in it, but I think now where the economy is so volatile and changing and there's so much room for speculation with overvaluations, undervaluations, working in venture capital now during the boom of AI is something that has a lot of importance and can help you with so many other things. And this firm I'm really excited for. I've recently actually got interviewed.
So wait, so what is it? So it's an actual student-run venture capital firm that actually raises its own money from its own LPs and then finds interesting things to invest in?
Yeah, so it's really early stage investing. We invest about $50,000 per firm. We have about $5 million endowed that we have to spend.
Okay, so individual investments are roughly 50,000.
About, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what's the typical like exit period? Do you know, is it like a 10-year run or something like that, or is it but like, is there a particular focus? Like, are they focused on, I don't know, clean energy or any particular sort of niche?
Yeah, it's pretty diversified actually, which the student run thing, it's interesting, to say. And you say, hey, student run. Oh, wow, that's cool that students work in it. But you're also dealing with a lot of student founders. And, that being a student, when me and Dylan think about being a student, or Kaylee at Tulane, and we're all first years, we're only like looking about 3 years in the future, but there are per se students who've been in school for 10 years who are getting a PhD, and a lot of them work in really interesting fields. Like biotech is booming right now, especially in Canada.
So this particular firm, this venture capital firm, has kids that are like undergrads all the way through grad school, PhDs, wow.
Everything from first year like me to 35-year-old PhDs studying at McGill.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. Well, I will say, like, if you're looking, if I just, because one of the things that I try to teach in my course at USC is timeless traits, timeless talents that you can refine, timeless skills that will work throughout, the next several decades. Because if you're always looking at timely stuff, you're constantly chasing what the latest technology is, et cetera, and it gets very difficult, right? Like AI technology is changing so fast. I like to focus a lot on the core fundamentals, right? So if I'm thinking timeless and I'm thinking about like what I know about you, I mean, your ability to network and meet people that they know and all that kind of stuff and build a trust in a really quick manner. I think that's going to be, if venture capital or investing was someplace you wanted to go, I would say you're going to be a great rainmaker someday. Like, you'll be able to draw in LPs. You'll be able to make LPs feel really like they can trust you and trust what you're pitching as far as a potential fund that's investing in, say, whatever niche it is, because you know how to make people feel at ease and also how to get them to trust you. Plus, you're a great outgoing guy. So I think rainmaking's interesting. I do think there's a lot of team player stuff that I've noticed about you that I think will be really good in terms of if you are in the investment firm business or at a big bank or whatever it is. I mean, teamwork is crucial in terms of competing out there in a very competitive marketplace. And, I know you're great at rallying teammates, especially when, the stack is decked, or the deck is stacked against them and they're, maybe a couple goals behind. I always see you trying to rally in guys, and that's great. And then just that team atmosphere is really good. And then, on top of it, I mean, I'll challenge you to always think out of the box, like you got to always keep an eye out for opportunities. Think of like certain trends or things that are moving in certain directions. Is there money to make there? And that's something that I think is probably innate in you, but you gotta, you have to refine that through time. But I would say you got all the tools to make whatever this entity is at McGill successful. And when you get in there, you got to remember Dylan too. Like, hey, Maybe he can be your secretary or something. I don't know. No, just don't forget us little people when you make it, okay?
Hey, maybe I'll make it and move to Manhattan Beach. How about that?
There you go.
Have my kids go to Costa, have them play lacrosse here, play with Dylan.
Well, I will tell you, all you got to do is walk down the street here, and there's probably plenty of abilities to, raise funds and find new LPs. So it wouldn't be a bad place to live, that's for sure. So now that you're at school and you're more than midway done with your first year, AI, let's face it. I mean, everybody's talking about it, but how do you look at AI shaping not only your school existence, but the way you're looking at what you're going to be doing in your career, right? There's all these headlines about, there's no entry level jobs anymore because everybody's going to be replaced by AI or whatever that is. How do you process headlines like that? How do you process that idea of challenges that are really going to be out there in the face of this technology?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a lot of things, right? You see a headline and you see Amazon lays off 30,000, 50,000 workers, right? And you're like, oh my God, we're finally seeing what we saw in the Terminator or iRobot. It's AI. They're coming for everything. There's going to be robots walking the street. And, it's easy to see that and, make the inference and say, hey, why should I even try? This is just cooked. We just have a couple managerial people who are high up corporate that are making these decisions. But you realize that, for every large change in technology in the last 200 years, AI, for example, have you ever heard of the spinning mule?
No.
So the spinning mule back in the Industrial Revolution in England was a tool that was used to accelerate the making of clothes and cloth. And what actually happened was there was a group of people who were disenfranchised in London whose jobs were taken by these spinning mules because they needed less people to work, and they tried to riot. And then 20 years later, all those people that were rioting ended up working in a different specialization in those factories. My point is, we used to have typewriters. We used to have, secretaries who would do things like that. And those things get replaced as technology improves. I see AI, people see it as some very distinct piece of culture and life and technology. And I kind of just see it as another acceleration of the internet being created. It's another larger breakthrough. But, you need to learn how to master that because it's going to create new skills. There's going to be new human interactive skills that you need to cultivate and use AI. And I think it's going to make absolute beasts. It's going to become a world corporately of have-nots and have-yots. It is going to create people who will know how to use it right, who will work hard, who know exactly how the game is played, who know how to use this to their advantage and make them more efficient, more smart. Those people are going to be wildly successful. I mean, if you look at the amount of billionaires and centimillionaires, right? People who are worth over $100 million in the U.S. since 2020, I think it's doubled, if I'm correct. So as our economy becomes technically more efficient, more people are creating vast amounts of wealth. And that's because they're using efficiency and they're making the right decisions with AI. It helps you with all. Generative AI is an amazing thing for college students, right? It's different in high school because in high school, a lot of kids would just, they just plug something in and it would write them an essay and they wouldn't have to think about it. It's like slop. It just turns their brain to mush. But in college, you're able to have it make you a more efficient schedule, a more efficient day, work more efficiently, study more efficiently, manage more files or books or articles.
Have you created your own AI bots, your own agents? How people are essentially creating their own assistants for different disciplines. Have you experimented with that at all?
I kind of just treat ChatGPT right now as my own personal assistant. I'm thinking about making the switch to Gemini. I haven't locked it in. I have not locked it in yet, but my cousin was telling me about how Gemini, because it's run by Google, has so much more money to spend on experimental things that can really make a better experience for the user. And, I don't love Sam Altman. I prefer Google. I like it better. But
he is an odd bird. I mean, he's obviously brilliant, but I do question what his intentions are. It seems a little bit like he's okay with replacing the human race with AI technology and some of the random things he says where you're like, wait a minute, is this, is this the kind of guy we want with that much power? I don't know. But what I think was interesting listening to you and some of the other guys that you're with here on spring break, AI, it seems like you guys are embracing AI as a tool versus as a threat, right? Which I think is a crucial component for your generation to think about it as and be optimistic about. I mean, I think people my age are going, oh my God, how am I going to get good enough at this stuff when I grew up in an analog, even non-social media environment, like non-cell phone, like all this stuff. Like there's so many habits and instincts that we have that are based on the analog age versus the digital age that it is a little daunting to think that we can keep up with understanding the technology as quickly as we need to. Whereas you guys, you haven't really known anything different. Like everything has been accelerating really fast on a technological level, right? I mean, so for you, it's just like, oh yeah, it's a new tool. We just got to figure out how to harness it, and I got to be better at it than everybody else.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like with my generation, it's one of the first generations that has like generational consciousness, I would say. Like saying that you're from Gen Z and referring to people in different, generations, I think it kind of started with the millennial boomer beef. I think that's what kind of kickstarted it, and Gen Z kind of got the blowback for it. But it became sort of like, oh, we are Gen Z because it's such a unique time between the economics and technology changes, like the culture that derived from that. You then you pair it in COVID, when at least like for us, like those are pretty formative years that you spend inside. But I feel like with social media, it's demonized so much, but I think our generation uses it in such a nice way, On social media, you're able to find so many places for going out, for meeting people, for large gatherings, because when you see a big, like a large gathering or like a big concert or something on social media, you say, hey, I want to go there. Right. And a lot of other people
like Igloo Fest, man.
Yeah.
Dylan's mom and I, we were watching constantly the Igloo Fest because we knew you guys were at it. I think I was more intrigued by the fact that it was like -5 degrees Fahrenheit and you guys are out partying with whatever the latest Avicii is. But the it is, social media is a really interesting tool for obviously staying connected and expanding your horizons if it's used right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you can use social media for good or for evil. You could just only send out 1,000 hate comments every day and you're not going to do too much for society. But if you're per se like a small business that's selling really cool handbags, there's no better way than to reach people, you know what I mean? And I feel like our generation really, really has embraced it, and it's turned into more our generation becoming more social, actually having better social skills than say some of the older Gen Z who had COVID during college or like late high school, like they had a time off where they could just completely zone out and not talk to anybody. And I think that people in the business realm as well who have experienced that with us and see the value and see, hey, those people, it sucks that they had to go through COVID when they did, but they didn't develop those social skills. I want to develop these social skills. I want to have fun. I want to go out in college. I hear about how much fun your generation had in college, what my parents had and what they did. And part of it is just meeting so many people. And I feel like our generation, at least the people at McGill, hey, maybe I'm in a bubble, have embraced it so much. And it's made the last couple of years a lot more enjoyable, I would definitely say as well.
Well, that's great. I mean, if Mark Twain had the famous quote, never let academics interfere with your education.
Yeah.
I would say, you want to focus on getting pretty good grades. But if it's the difference between an A+ and an A- in order to get out and meet all these interesting people that are going to be part of your network for the rest of your life, I say go for it. Get the A- or even the B+. Like that network that is going to shield you from the lowest lows, and careers go up and down all the time. But that network and the people that that's going to be the buffer between all the times that you fail and if you're going to be very successful in life, you got to fail a bunch of times, but that network is going to help you bounce back and have that third act after the low point after the second act, every time. So that's a great thing about it. And then when you look at AI technology replacing a lot of people, I would argue you're the kind of guy that's going to be able to use AI as a tool, but also be protected from being replaced because, yes, back office people, support staff, all that kind of stuff is going to be replaced. It's really going to be the people with the people skills, that ability to sort of think about things out of the box, network, gain trust, all that kind of stuff, the rainmaking, that can't be replaced by AI at any time. I mean, maybe somewhere down the road you make a super robot out of it with quantum computing. But for now, it's like, it seems like that's a pretty good way to stay, to build that immunity. All right, let's focus on something that's also a particular topic, but maybe not as serious. Movies. You're a fan.
Huge fan.
Nice. I like that. We need more fans of movies out there every day because we are seeing a marketplace that's quite disrupted right now. So I appreciate it. Do you go see movies in theaters?
Believe it or not, me and Dylan, because of the weather and the fact that we're in an old hotel as our dorm, are actually connected to a indie movie theater that we don't even have to go outside for.
Oh, that's the one right below in the basement, right?
Yeah.
Wait, is that on the way to that Russian health center, fitness center down there? That's so actually, random. What is that thing? It's got to be a front for something.
Oh my gosh. La Cité. Do not go. If you are ever in New Residence Hall at McGill University, do not visit La Cité. I will tell you that. Nothing good happens at La Cité after 12 p.m.
All right. So tell me about what plays down in that independent film theater down in your basement?
They've played some really interesting ones.
Did you guys see Begonia there?
Dylan saw Begonia. I saw Eddington there.
Oh, Eddington. Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
That is a movie that Jen and I watched, and we had no idea what it was about. And by the end of it, we were like, well, that we did not predict. Mm-hmm. And I think we're still a little disturbed by it all and trying to figure it out. But it was a good movie, right?
Yeah. I mean, Ari Aster's a pretty interesting director. I watched one of his short movies, which I will not name here. But he loves to shock his audience. He loves to draw you in by giving you a unique experience where you might be able to connect to it. Like there were, in the beginning of Eddington, there were a bunch of scenes where I was like, oh, that reminds me of COVID. The lines, the people absolutely tweaking out over a mask, the crash outs.
Well, give a quick, just a two sentence summary of what that movie's the setting of that movie.
Yeah, essentially it's a sheriff and a mayor who have differing political and social beliefs for their town, and as COVID and as more societal unrest unravels, the town becomes a center place for the division that took place in America at the time.
Whoa, that's a pretty good size. Did you just AI that in your head?
I'm a big Letterboxd guy. Maybe it's on there.
All right, so you saw that. Now, what you were mentioning with Dylan? There's something that like a club or a circle or what is it called? Like what were you saying about movies? You guys do something. What is that?
Yes, we've got The Wheel. All capital.
Which, by the way, is different than the mule. What was that other thing?
The spinning mule.
The spinning mule. This is different than the spinning mule.
The spinning mule does not have anything on our wheel. Our wheel would replace this. The spinning mule was created in the 18th century so that we could have the wheel.
Okay.
That's how I'll put it.
All right.
The Wheel. So I am a ride or die Letterboxd user. I have an alarming amount of screen time on Letterboxd. And believe it or not, Dylan's got a popping Letterboxd too. He's got some pretty good movies on there. He's got some good reviews. And it was pretty funny when we found out that each other had a Letterboxd. And I'm always on Letterboxd. I'm always adding movies to my watch list. I actually have a list.
Explain to people what a Letterboxd is.
Letterboxd is what Instagram wishes it was. Letterboxd is basically Instagram for movies.
So what does that mean? You go
Twitter for movies.
Okay, so you go on it and you can watch a whole movie.
No, well, it takes you to where you can watch a movie.
Okay.
But basically...
So it's not a pirated site.
No, it's not
Okay.
a pirated site at all. It has a Patreon and subscription platform, but it's totally cool to use for free. Very easy to use for free, which I respect. And it's very catered to the...
Cinephile?
To the movie community, you know, just to people who love movies, who love to talk about them. You know, because for so long when... I feel like there were more barriers to entry for public thought about movies when it was just movie critics and magazines and whatnot 20, 30 years ago. You know, there were a lot of gate-kept opinions about movies that you could only share with your friends if you saw them. But it really exploded during COVID, and it's just blossomed into something that I love being a part of. You know, like you can look at a movie and it has its score based on people who really care about movies. So not people who just watch this movie one time, or movie critics who are maybe overly pretentious, maybe not, depends on who you ask. And you can click on a movie and you can see 10,000 reviews, every different kind of review under the sun. And then it has all these cool features. So on your profile, kind of like your Instagram bio, you put your top 4 favorite movies with a profile picture, which I think is super cool. You've got your top 4 favorite movies.
I hope Dylan has like 4 of my movies as his top 4.
Lawrence of Arabia is his number 1.
Yeah, I wasn't involved with that one. Wow, that's pretty impressive. Well, what's your number 1?
Barry Lyndon, huge Kubrick fan.
Wow. All right, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is City of God.
Oh, that's such a... Wait, what's the
Beautiful
name
movie.
of that director?
Oh, my God.
Fernando Meirelles? Or no?
I think he's Brazilian.
No, he is a Brazilian.
Yeah.
Oh, City of God's amazing. Wait, so what's number 3?
Number 3 is Apocalypse Now.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, now number 4.
Number 4 is actually a two-way tie for me. Right now, I've got The Deer Hunter slightly edging out Cinema Paradiso.
Wow.
Yeah. I can
So
go
you
through
guys
all
are
my
hardcore. Do you know what Dylan's are? His top 4?
I can pull it up right.
So
I can
his
pull it up
top
right
is
now.
Lawrence of Arabia? That's insane.
He loves it. I mean, I can't blame him. I watched Lawrence of Arabia for the first time, I want to say 5 years ago, and I absolutely loved it. And we always talk about how we could wish to see it on the big screen. You know,
Right.
believe it or not, you are actually on Letterboxd, not as an account, but just your name. We searched you up, and you are credited on here for quite a few things, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, if you go to here, I can pull it up right now.
Oh my God! It's
You
gonna
search
not
up
say.
Chris.
Yeah, it was Fernando Meirelles. Yes, I nailed it on City of God. How about that?
Here we
I know
go.
my stuff.
Here we go. Chris Fenton.
Oh, boy.
Films executive produced by right here. They got a picture of you and everything.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, check that out. Oh, they got Chappaquiddick on there.
They
Nice.
got 47 Ronin.
47 Ronin.
We got
There you
Looper
go.
in here. I hope so.
Oh man, they missing Looper? That's not cool.
That's pretty disrespectful.
That is disrespectful.
Yeah.
But that's all right. All right. So hopefully I got a somewhat passing score on there. I don't know. I've definitely made some bad movies, but I've made a handful of good ones too. So, all right. So how many movies do you think you see a week? Are you able to see one movie a week, or is that too tough with everything going on at school?
When you're going out, I usually watch movies at night.
Right.
And I usually get my schoolwork done during the day. So on the days without it, me and Dylan will actually watch quite a few movies, believe it or not. But originally, we did not watch as many movies because we were watching the TV show Entourage, which Dylan claims is his favorite series.
Well, I do have to say, I've had episodes of Entourage in my own life a couple times, so like that show does speak to me. It wasn't quite as crazy. Well, we had a crazy house that was a little like that, but we kept it rated PG-13. We didn't go R. But anyway, so what I want to do is hopefully get more of you guys before you take off spring break to talk more. Because this is arguably probably the most fascinating conversation we've had on this podcast. No, I'm not going to say that because we've had some great ones, but this one was shockingly awesome. And actually, I shouldn't say shockingly because I know you, so I knew it was something that I wanted to get out there. But hopefully, everybody enjoyed it. You have any last words for our audience?
Well, I have to thank you for having me out on my first ever podcast as well. I got to say, it was I had a little bit of the jitters first. I use my I have a routine before I have either job interviews or anything like that where I shout out to Johnny Drama from Entourage. I go, "Auga!" jump up and down, beat my chest, and then sit down and get ready to go. So I did that here. I think, knowing you beforehand kind of relieved my jitters, and it's always really cool to be on a podcast. And I don't think there's a better view to be on a podcast, if I'm being honest with you. I
love
think
it.
It gets much better.
Well, thank you, the great Hudson Waldorf. We will have him back for sure. We really appreciate everybody taking a listen, and please follow us, review, engage any way possible. Feel free to DM or compliment or criticize if it's constructive, because we are now in 46 countries around the world, including, I think, almost every province in Canada. So until next time, we are Plate and Ponder Empty Nesting with Jen and Chris Fenton and Hudson Waldorf. Till next time, go McGill Redbirds.